Hello, happy Wednesday. I don't remember what day we're on. I'm Emmy. You are joining me for a very impromptu Theatre&Tonic this afternoon, late evening, with Nikolai Foster, who is the artistic director of the Curve in Leicester. So at 𝗘𝗺𝗶𝗹 will be joining us. I thought I'd just come on a little bit early, so then we have no technical issues. But I hope you're well and you're having a great week. I'm trying to drink my cup of tea because it's going cold and we don't like to waste tea. So yes, I'm going to talk to Nikolai Foster today about the Curve in Leicester and about their upcoming season, which is really exciting. And I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to sit down and talk with a local theatre about their reopening plans, how are they making their audiences feel safe returning, and yeah, like what it's like to be back. If you didn't know, Curve was one of the ones that closed last year, like every of us, and they were showing the Phantom of the Opera, the UK tour at the time. And then they went, obviously everyone went into lockdown, and the Curve brought to us 2 stream performances, well, a couple of them, but 2 absolute standouts: Sunset Boulevard and The Colour Purple. And then they also did the Curve Classroom, which was a way for them to engage with the younger people in their community by doing some fantastic workshops in the arts. So yes, they were very busy. And now they're reopening, which is amazing. I have been twice. I went once for a socially distanced performance of Amdram, the musical, and then recently I went to see Magic Goes Wrong in a full capacity theatre. So it's been great to go back to the local theatres and to support them. So if you are close to your local theatre, it'd be really nice to hear in the comments which are your local theatres, and also tell us how you're supporting them, because I think this is a really important time for local theatres as they emerge out of this pandemic, and your support is really vital. Obviously we have the big names in West End, but I think that the smaller companies are just as important. So hopefully Nikolai will be joining us any minute, but do say hello. Hi Shah, hope you're well. And hi Claire, I can see you. Woohoo! Hello! But yes, I'm very excited for this programme. I am going to talk to Nikolai about it, because there's some bloody good stuff coming up. All the way up to Christmas. I mean, this goes to, I think, like, to next summer. So this is their programme to next summer, but we are going to focus primarily on up until Christmas, because there's a bit of a clue on what their Christmas production is if you don't know. But I hope you're all well. Hi Scott Bird, I'm going to wave to you. But yes, if you are a local theatre in the Midlands and you're watching this, do get in touch. I'm really keen to chat to local theatres about their programmes coming up and about how we can support you guys as we come through the other side of this lockdown. Yeah, so if you've got anybody that you know that's in local theatres, or any theatres you feel like I need to talk to, like, give me a shout. Dear me, I have spoken for too long. We'll wait for Nikolai to join us. He should be here any minute. But yes, I'm going to keep drinking this tea before it goes cold. Has anyone seen any theatre recently? I think that's a question I should ask. I went to see the 𝗘𝗺𝗶𝗹 last night at the RSC. That was beautiful. It was nice to be in an outdoor theatre instead of an indoor theatre for a change. That was really good fun. And then on Sunday I am returning to the Criterion to watch Amelie once again, which I'm very excited for. It's a birthday present, so I've got to make the most of it. I'm literally just looking at this programme. Thanks for keeping me company on the last hour right before I run to the theatre. You're going to run to the theatre? Oh Lord, I can't be doing that. I can't be doing that. No theatre yet. Claire, it breaks my heart that you've not been yet. We are going to sort this out. We are going later this month anyway to watch Rent at the Home Little Theatre. So all is dandy in the world. But whilst I'm here, if you do have any questions for Nikolai about any of the productions coming up, do let us know in the comments below. And I will leave Curve Theatre have joined us, so I'm hoping that they're going to pop in their handle so that you can go and check out what they've got coming up. If you hear any of the shows that we're going to talk about and you kind of go, yeah, I really need to go and see that, then they are the people. Running to See Come From Away, of course. Of course you want to see Come From Away. I still haven't seen that. Please don't judge me. Counting down to Frozen and Grown Ups. I know. Frozen's literally like 2 months away. How exciting. It'd be nice to go away for that. Obviously, we're going to see Rent as well, so that's always good as well. Nikolai has joined us, so I will get him in if I can. If I can remember how to do this. I've not done it in a while. Oh, yeah. I have said hello at the bottom, so do get in touch with them as well. Nikolai should be here any minute. He is. Hello, Nikolai.
Hi, Emmy. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Are you having a good day?
Yeah, it's just hot. I've gone really hot all of a sudden. What is going on with the weather?
I know, it's like there's a storm coming, isn't there? It's sort of storm clouds and gone all sort of heavy. And yeah, I just brought the washing in, so there's an insight into my day to day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me, Nikolai. I think it's the perfect opportunity to kind of sit and chat about the Curve, because you've kind of started to really talk about reopening. So how does it feel to kind of be putting things out there again?
Oh, it's incredible, as you can imagine. I mean, when we were doing the sort of film stuff and all of the Curve classroom and online stuff during lockdown, that felt really positive, sort of finding creative solutions to, you know, the sort of monumental challenges we all faced. And then we sort of, you know, did our films of Sunset and 𝗘𝗺_Purple, and they were really fantastic and inspiring to work on, but nothing beats being back in the building. And, you know, a couple of months back when we did the socially distanced season with the concerts and the local artists sort of reopening the space and taking it over, that was just incredible. And then this past weekend we've had Grease on, and it's been completely sold out, and just seeing people smiling again and being together. And, you know, the feedback we've had is that everybody feels so safe coming back into the building and really welcome. And, you know, that's just incredible, really. So yeah, it's really great to sort of be back and thinking really positively about the future.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think you guys have done whatever you can do to make everybody feel safe. And have you found that quite difficult to reassure people moving, like, with this time?
Yeah, I think we've got such an amazing team across the organisation. Everybody cares desperately and is really passionately invested, you know, in all of their roles. So whether it's, you know, the cleaning team or the front of house team or the ushers, everybody it's been a real team effort. So I think the only challenging thing really has been sort of keeping up with the government guidance. Well, I say guidance, it's not always been guidance. It's sort of been scraps of information here and there. And, you know, sometimes that's been a little bit challenging, trying to sort of decipher exactly what we should or shouldn't be doing. But actually, in terms of, you know, we're in a super modern, spacious, airy building. So actually putting all of the protocols in place has been relatively, you know, touch wood, straightforward, and audiences have been really respectful thus far, and everybody's been coming in and feeling safe and having a good time, which is really what it's about at the moment.
Absolutely. And obviously, like you say, you had Grease last weekend, which is probably like one of the best productions to kind of start with, because it's a Made at Curve production. So does it feel kind of exciting as well that you kind of put in one of your productions out in the touring circuit again?
Yeah, totally. And I think all of us, you know, working across theatre up and down the country, we know that we're only going to get through this by collaborating and helping each other. And I think, you know, before the pandemic, I think we'd sold nearly as many tickets as the National Theatre that year in terms of our touring work. And isn't it amazing that work generated in Leicester is going all across the land, and we're really flying the flag for Leicester and for Curve. But I think now to be one of those first touring shows out of the gate, you know, when we're still worrying about being pinged and all of the challenges that we're sort of facing at the moment, and knowing that Grease and the Made at Curve production is helping other venues to safely reopen and get back on their feet, that feels even more special, that Leicester and Curve are really helping other theatres, you know, outside of the city. And I think that's that's really powerful and humbling that we're sort of able to do that.
Absolutely. And again as well, like, you kind of trying to bring the importance of our community back as well. So obviously you've recently announced that you'll be doing some performances in August, some outdoor kind of work. So where's that kind of come from?
Well, that was, we've collaborated a lot with the local council. Well, I mean, obviously we collaborate with the council all the time because they're one of our principal funders. And so we always work closely with them. But during lockdown, we did a video to sort of turn on the Christmas lights. And then recently we've worked with them on a poetry project. And out of those discussions came this idea with the Business Improvement District, the BID, and all of the businesses around Orton Square, Orton's, the Exchange, the LCB, and of course 𝗘𝗺 and the council. How about really helping people to come back into the city centre and feel confident and safe? And what better way to do it than, you know, some free outdoor entertainment on the square, some of it really sort of, you know, theatre based, you know, musical theatre songs, some of our associate artists doing, you know, choreography, whether it's Nupa arts, but then there's everything, you know, from steel bands to local poets to, you know, tribute acts. So it's going to, you know, if you're not quite sure about, you want to go inside a theatre yet, coming outdoors to the square feels like a really sort of good compromise, that you can see some live performance, be around other people. But if you're thinking, actually, I'd love to just take a bit of a walk and, you know, chill out or whatever away from the crowd, then you can absolutely do that. So it was born out of that, really. It's about getting people back into the city centre and recognising that we've been told to stay away for so long, and it's really important we all start getting back into our city centre and all of those businesses working together and reminding us that, you know, culture and having a drink and eating out and seeing a show, they're, you know, what make us human and what make, you know, cities like Leicester so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people want to come and see these free performances, when can they expect to see them?
Well, we're starting on Friday, so I've just read the weather report and it's threatening thunder and lightning and all sorts. But yeah, we start on Friday at 6 o'clock. So the idea with the Friday evening is that, you know, if you're finishing work, you can come down to the square, grab a drink. You know, there's entertainment going on. We're kicking off with a steel band, so it'll be loud and lively and joyous and filled with sort of, you know, that sort of uplifting vibrancy that only, I guess, a steel band can sort of provide. So and it's not about sort of sitting down and, you know, watching a show from start to finish. It's, as I say, it's about grabbing some food, meeting friends, you know, taking on a bit of what's happening on the stage and just sort of being there and enjoying it on your own sort of terms, really. And then on Saturdays throughout August, we'll be doing a sort of morning session, which is very much aimed at younger people and their families. So lots of storytelling, lots of sort of interactive sort of theatrical stuff like that. Then the afternoon is sort of a bit more sort of musical theatre, bit more something for everything. And then the evening on the Saturdays is a bit more sort of, you know, I wouldn't say rock and roll, but a bit more sort of, you know, if you're going out for your Saturday night, why not start it in the square? A few drinks, a few cocktails, whatever's going on. And the whole idea is it's a festival vibe. It's not sort of anything too serious. You know, there'll be a chalkboard up in the square and you'll come down and you'll see what's on. And it's a bit of sort of rough and tumble and meant to be just sort of very relaxed and low key and, you know, just celebrating local artists, local talent, really.
Absolutely. And like you say, I think in the Orton Square, there's some really fantastic businesses there that we really need to support as well. So I guess it's a really nice moment where it's kind of bringing all of them together.
Exactly. It's not just about 𝗘𝗺. It's not just about supporting your local theatre. It's about supporting the whole ecology, because if any of us, you know, are sort of struggling or not finding our sort of way back after this pandemic, then we're all going to suffer. It's so important we're supporting the whole sort of nighttime entertainment ecology, if you like.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously you were meant to have Rent the concert this month, and obviously that had to kind of be cancelled, and I guess it kind of shows that things can still change. So how has it felt to kind of lose that kind of production, and do you hope it'll come back? I'm hoping you'll say it'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, it's really odd, because the beginning of the pandemic, we just, you know, we were cancelling things left, right and centre. And, you know, we've never really done that before as an industry. So, you know, there was this sort of sense of mourning and loss for all of these shows that were either sort of being cancelled or postponed or moved. And that sort of madness of just sort of cancelling things carried on throughout the year. And I think sort of quite on a negative way, we've sort of got used to cancelling things. And so when we ended up sort of cancelling Rent, which is a show that we've wanted to do desperately for such a long time, it was like, sadly, it was just like, oh yeah, we just do that now. We cancel and we move on. And so we didn't really mourn it or think too long and hard about it, because in a really brutal way, we'd sort of just got used to, this is another brutal aspect of this coronavirus, where things that you've spent so long trying to get the rights for and fighting for and dreaming up a whole production for and casting, you know, Rent, we had this amazing group of actors already lined up, and then suddenly it's, you know, it's on to the next sort of salvage operation of how do we, you know. So yeah, it was desperately sad, but by that point we were sort of, as sort of brutal as it sounds, we were quite immune to it, because we've had a whole year of, all we've kept in the back of our minds is we have to save the theatre. That is the most important thing. And along the way, there are casualties, which are the productions. But the end game is always making sure there's a theatre there long into the future. So second part of your question there, yes, we'd love to do Rent again one day. And I think one of the great things about the sort of creativity I talked about earlier is that we learned how to use that in the round space. And, you know, with the Andrew Lloyd Webber concert, it absolutely looks amazing. And, you know, Rent, you know, we had this whole production planned using that infrastructure and the rig and, you know, really exploding the space like that. So it's not to say we couldn't do that again in the future, because it's such a great piece of writing. And I think we had a really exciting production plan. So it'd be a shame not to do it in the future.
Yeah, please bring it back. It's really annoying because I'm like, oh God, that's one thing I wanted to see. Yeah. Damn it.
Well, we'd love to, but I guess, again, that's the thing that suddenly now it's like Heathrow Airport on a good day, when there's just all of these productions wanting to land and, you know, come and play at Curve. And we're just sort of backed up for years now with shows, really. So hopefully we can do it again, but it would be sometime in the future, you know, quite a long way in the future, I guess.
It will come, it will come. So obviously we're kind of moving forward now, and the Curve have such an amazing lineup of shows coming until Christmas. So can you tell us a little bit about the programme and what made you kind of programme it? What kind of work feel were you trying to go for?
Well, first up, which just started rehearsing on Monday, is Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which again is one of those productions that's been shunted and shifted, and it's really exciting play for us because we're working with the Royal Theatrical Trust Society, I think is the right title, who are basically a wonderful charity who support a young upcoming director every year to work with a theatre like ours on a major production. And so it was about 2 years ago that Anthony Almeida was the winner of the 𝗘𝗺𝗶𝗹 bursary. And Anthony's waited patiently for, you know, over a year now with his team, who've created this wonderful sort of world, very contemporary reading of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And they finally started rehearsing on Monday, an incredible company led by a rising film star, Sienna Kelly, who I coincidentally worked with on the production of West Side Story when Sienna was at National Youth Music Theatre about 10 years ago. An incredible actor, Oliver Johnstone, who's playing Brick, surrounded by this wonderful company of actor Peter Forbes, who has a great sort of relationship with the old Haymarket, Teresa Banham, a critically acclaimed stage actor. So they've just started rehearsing. So that is sort of first out of the gate, kicking off the sort of autumn season. And then that will go on tour as well. And then obviously at Christmas, we're doing a chorus line, which we're incredibly excited about. I've just been storyboarding the production this morning, and we've got a little bit more casting to do next week, and then we should have a full cast. But we were just so excited and determined to get a chorus line on, because you know, when we programmed it, again, we weren't sure if we could, you know, build a huge production. You know, normally those big Christmas shows are being built and cast in the spring of the year that they will arrive on our stage. And we just weren't confident to do Wizard of Oz, because that absolutely will be, when it arrives next year, the biggest Christmas show we've ever done in terms of spectacle and, you know, all of that sort of thing. And it, you know, so a chorus line is basically set in an empty theatre. So that felt like a really safe approach. You know, we didn't have hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of scenery and set. But most importantly, it's a play about the theatre and what we did for love, and celebrating theatre and all of the incredible actors and stage managers and creatives who, you know, make a show. And so it felt really important coming out of this pandemic as the sort of perfect title, if you like, to celebrate our theatre with our community and our audiences, and say, look, we're all back together. We all love theatre and being in a theatre, and we love shows, and we love choreography, and we love great musicals. And, you know, this, alongside your Rent and your West Side Story, is one of those sort of anchor musicals. You sort of go through the decades, and along comes a chorus line and changes the agenda and the course of the great American musical forevermore. So it was always on the hit list. But coming out of this hellish period, you know, it just felt like a really special, it's a unique piece to do. It celebrates music and musicals in a way like no other musical. So it just felt like the perfect piece, really. And then alongside that, we've got the Smeds and the Smoods, which is a new production for the Littleys. We're working with Tall Stories, who have such a great reputation for creating, you know, theatre for young people and their families. So it's a real, you know, again, something for everything, which again feels really important coming out of this, you know, this very challenging period.
Absolutely. And you've also got The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe starting its UK tour at the Curve. So that must be really exciting as well, to bring such an exciting new kind of production back on tour as well. Yeah, absolutely.
The play premiered, I think it was, I lose track of time after this pandemic, but it must have been about 2 or 3 years ago now, up at Leeds Playhouse. And it was the acclaimed director Marion Elliott and her company Elliott Harper Productions who put this thing on, and then it transferred down to the Bridge Theatre. Again, I'm unsure of times because of the pandemic, but whenever we last did a Christmas show, they were doing it at the Bridge. And, you know, it's an incredibly imaginative production. And yes, it's amazing that it's opening at Curve, and that's just before Christmas, and then it will go on a tour. And again, it's just a really imaginative piece of work that really celebrates the essence of theatre. You know, that production you can only do on stage. It's not about sort of technical wizardry or special effects. It's about special effects of the imagination and the mind. And again, like a chorus line, it's inherently theatrical. And again, that just feels so exciting at this moment when we've all been watching, you know, our Netflix and our Amazon Prime and all of your CGI and your special effects. Just to see something that can only happen in a theatre feels really rewarding and very powerful, I think.
Absolutely. And obviously, Chorus Line is a Made at Curve production. You've had quite a lot of success with your Made at Curve productions, and one that always comes to mind for me is like White Christmas, that went on to having a West End limited run. So for you, do you think that's really important that you're kind of putting Leicester on the map for that kind of work?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it always has to be about Leicester, and if it has a life beyond Leicester, that's an added bonus. But it's always got to be making the best work, you know, for our audience in Leicester. And I was thinking about Greece that we opened at the weekend. When we did that 6-7 years ago, you know, we used all of that amazing space. It was like a rock and roll concert with all the, you know, lights at the side and, you know, hundreds of, you know, lights, that because that's what we own within the theatre. We had a flying car, we had a teen angel that flew, and it was using all of the resource and the talent that we have in that building. And, you know, we're really proud of the tour that's just gone out at the moment, but it's, you know, it's Diddy on that stage. It's all been reduced for touring. And, you know, I always think it's got to be about Leicester first and foremost. And if it has a future life, that's fine. But we must never be building these shows for other venues. It's about Leicester and about Curve, and the resource and the technical expertise we have within that venue is, you know, we can only do at Curve. And sadly, whenever we tour stuff, we're always having to compromise and reduce and change things. And, you know, for a chorus line, we're, you know, for the ending, you know, that spectacular finale, we've been talking about literally I don't know if you saw, I think it was the Jay-Z concert, where it's literally a whole ceiling of lights and parkans at the side and a wall of lights flying in. And, you know, you could only do that at Curve and it would look spectacular, but to sort of tour that or recreate that elsewhere would be just, you know, prohibitive, you know, financially. So it's always about Curve and doing it for Leicester first. And then if we have to think about it and reconceive it, you know, for other venues, we will. But it's absolutely about our theatre first and foremost.
Absolutely. And I definitely feel like Leicester's kind of been put on the map for that kind of style of work. You know, we've kind of, I think in the last 5 or 6 years, I feel like we've kind of exploded a little bit and people are becoming more familiar to Curve now and they know we're kind of up there. So what do you think's kind of been fundamental then for your work since you've been at the Curve?
How do you mean in terms of like sort of developing as a director?
Yeah.
I think it's what's lovely about being in the same space is that you really get to know what a building can do. And you also get to know what the tech team are capable of. And, you know how we can challenge each other. And I think that for me is the key, really, having that sort of personal connection to a venue where your blood, sweat and tears are really sort of ingrained in the fabric of the building. And, you know, the team and we sort of work well because we all know where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are, where we can help each other out. And I think that just means that the bar is raised higher and higher with each production. And we're constantly challenging each other and sharing ideas. And it's about the work. That's why people like Andrew Lloyd Webber, Cameron McIntosh, Matthew Bourne, Elliot Harper, as you talked about with Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe, Jonathan Church, all of these really prolific and important people within British theatre want to come and work in Leicester because it's about the quality of the work, and they know that the team who are on site are always going to go that bit further and that they're really, really talented. They're an incredible team. And that's not just the tech team, you know, that's with our marketing team, our learning and participation team. Everybody's striving to be the best that we can. And it's that sort of ambition I think that really helps fuel it. And, you know, people want to go where the cool kids are, you know, like to, you know, paraphrase Greece. So I think that's why people are coming to Leicester, because they know there's a theatre here that's really ambitious and is really capable of pulling off those big shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely say that you have that reputation from even talking to people in the past about when they've worked at your theatre. So like Stephen Mear and people like that have always said, like, you know, I enjoy coming to the Curve because of that kind of relationship is so different to what you get in other places.
Yeah, and I think even now, you know, the building's obviously a lot quieter. It's only just starting to sort of come back to life. But even now, you know, with the youth theatre coming back into the building, summer workshops happening, you know, every day throughout the summer holidays, all the planning for the work on the square, the poetry film we've just made, getting Greece on tour, rehearsing Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, planning for a chorus line. It's a real sort of hub of activity. It's an exciting building to go into. And, you know, many theatres, not many, but some theatres you go into during the daytime and they're just a bit boring. You know, there's not a lot going on.
No.
Whereas the minute you walk into Curve, there's always a bit of a buzz, you know, even coming out of this pandemic, it feels like an exciting place to be. And, you know, whether it's myself or, you know, young people coming into the space, we all just feel really excited to be there because you're never quite sure what's going to happen next. And that's what you want, isn't it? That sort of energy that fires us all, and, you know, that sense of coming together to, you know, put on a show or take part in a workshop or make something for, you know, the performances on the square. It's that energy which fires and inspires us all.
Absolutely. And you do a lot of work in the community anyway, and I guess it's kind of, that is so important moving forward, is to continue those really strong relationships like you have with 𝗘𝗺, particularly, you know, you have some really good relationships with those. So is it kind of is it important to you guys moving forward that you continue to build on those relationships within the community as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, there's some really strong relationships we've got with associate artists like 𝗘𝗺 and 𝗘𝗺 and Moving Together. But it's arrogant and I think wrong when we're talking about diversity in its truest sense and really trying to engage with the breadth of the real rich diversity that we have in Leicester and Leicestershire, to think, well, our doors are open, come to us, come and take part. We need to get out into our communities. And a lot of the work we've been doing recently is about thinking about CYCC rather than always the youth theatre always being at Curve. What about, exactly, what about going into community settings, going into schools, into youth clubs and running workshops and sessions there, so that we can meet people in settings that they feel empowered and comfortable within, and with a long-term hope that then they will come into the theatre. But I think as arts education is diminished within schools, we need to get in there. We need to get into the classrooms. We need to get into youth clubs and community centres and meet people in their environment and work with them in settings and on projects that they feel empowered and excited by, with a view to them bringing them in to the theatre, you know, if they want to. Again, it'd be arrogant to think that everybody wants to, you know, be part of the theatre and come and see shows, but we need to work with people, younger people, and because otherwise it starts to get too late when young people are sort of worrying about exams and all of the sort of stuff around GCSE age. We need to be working with them from a younger age, I think, to really diversify and make sure that everybody without exception feels welcome in a space like Curve, you know, because you look at it sometimes, and I remember the first sort of year I was working there, it's so intimidating as a space.
Yeah, it's so big,
it's so vast. And I think, you know, even though it's all glass fronted and this idea of it being a space you can just walk into, we mustn't forget that it does take confidence and a certain amount of understanding of what that building is there for to cross over that threshold. So yeah, it's the community aspect is, you know, really about getting into those spaces. And the poetry project we did recently was exactly that. It was going into specific communities, and they basically were writing a poem about what the lockdown has meant to them and what it means to be sort of thinking about the future. And then with Cara, who works in our creative programs team, they went out around those locations and filmed it, and it was all edited together to create a really beautiful and really important piece of work that was curated by and for those communities. And I think, you know, when we're thinking about our community production, historically we've done these big glossy musicals, which has been lovely, but what about getting our communities to write plays about themselves and about the community settings they live in? Because Leicester is just filled with these incredible stories, isn't it? Whether it's the football club or Joseph Merrick or Thomas Cook, or, you know, the industry that we had and have in Leicester, when you're looking at things like the rag trade and the Ugandan South Asians who migrated to the city in the 50s. There are this rich tapestries of stories that I think our community should be telling, and we should empower them and give them the resources to do that, because the talent and the passion is there. And it's a really extraordinary resource that we can all learn from, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you talk about communities, and obviously there's a lot of things about diminishing quite a lot of funding in the arts at the moment, which is obviously a massive concern. And I think I definitely agree that, you know, the work should definitely start when it's younger. When children are younger, they should have access to it. And I think a lot of the time is that there's been boundaries through money, and you know, maybe it is about diminishing that, getting rid of those boundaries and going, actually, it's not about money, it's about just engaging those children on a different wavelength, that doesn't necessarily mean it's all about the income.
Exactly. And I think one of the things we'd love to do one day is, you know, it's very old fashioned, but when I was sort of starting out as a trainee in sort of regional theatre, all regional theatres had their own schools touring company. So you'd have like an in-house director and a couple of actors, and you might add to that pool with local actors and a writer, and they would create, you know, a 1 hour play and a workshop. And every youth theatre, every youth club, every community centre, every school would get that show, and they'd tour around and do workshops. And there was no cost to it. It was brilliant, high quality, intelligent, accessible work. And we'd love to do that because, again, it's about taking away any boundary and just rocking up and sharing that ability to deal with complicated issues, stories through drama, and be able to talk about them in a safe and empowering space. And that's an ambition we have, and that's what the model at Curve that we're really trying to get back to, if we can get out of all of this pandemic stuff, is that all of those big musicals, all of those tours, the idea is that the money we're generating from them is absolutely going straight back into all of that work, which, you know, let's be honest, is expensive, but that's what we're funded to do. And the more money we can plough back in, then the more ambitious we can be.
Absolutely, I really agree. I know you're kind of stuck for time, so just to kind of round this up, how can people continue to support the Curve?
Well, I guess now more than ever, if you could buy a ticket, that would be incredible, because 80% of our funding comes from ticket sales. And all of those incredible schemes like the furlough scheme and the Culture Recovery Fund, which we're incredibly grateful to have received through the pandemic, they're all stopping imminently. And, you know, we go back to being a business where our survival is predicated on ticket sales. So please, buy a ticket, come and see a show, come and be part of that energy and buzz we've been talking about, and come and be part of our success story in rebuilding not just our theatre in Leicester, but, as we were talking about earlier, all of those local businesses that really thrive when we're thriving. You know, if you're having your dinner at Chutney Ivy before you come and see the show, or Orton's Brasserie, or across the road having a drink after the show at the Exchange, if, you know, if Curve's thriving and has got a healthy audience, then all of those businesses around us really succeed as well. So yeah, it's a short message: buy a ticket, please.
Absolutely. I couldn't encourage people to do so more. Thank you so much for your time, Nikolai.
Thank you for supporting us. Really appreciate it, as always.
No, you're more than welcome.
Lovely to talk to you as well.
Take care, Nikolai. See you soon.
Ta-ra, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
That was the wonderful Nikolai there, talking about the upcoming season at Curve and about the ways that we can support local theatre. I am loving this new programme. I think it's the perfect time to go and buy a ticket. I know that times are tough and, you know, income isn't always great, but honestly, supporting your local theatre right now is the biggest and best thing you can absolutely do. And it's really interesting to hear how he's so driven in talking about working with local communities and through schools. I work in a school, and I know that, like, moving forward, I want to do more for that. So I'm going to leave you now. I'm so glad to hear that Jason has booked loads of tickets. That's what I love to hear. I am going to head off now, and I am going to make a video about the next programme, because I think it'd be really good to do a bit of a, like, summary. But like I say, if you are close to a local theatre and you can send me a message of your local theatre, I'd really love to chat to loads of artistic directors and programmers for local theatres, just to kind of big them up and talk to them. But I'm going to leave you now. I am going to save this live, so don't panic, Andy, you'll be able to catch it. But thank you so much for joining myself and Nikolai on this Q&A, and have a rest of a good Wednesday, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.